Success stories always inspire all of us to aim high. And I, Neeraja Ganesh, your MC for today's Gala Award ceremony, am one such success story.
Sometimes it's hard to change our career path wondering if it's the right choice. But many have shown that if you're passionate about something, changing direction is a good move. Welcome to Beyond HerStory on Wonder Woman Wednesday. Today we are excited to have Neeraja Ganesh with us. She's a TEDx speaker, an award-winning mentor, and a champion for gender diversity. And after a successful career in tech, Neeraja switched to helping women and leaders around the world. In today's conversation, we will talk about her popular workshops, networking for results, and how to tell your story, the practical advice she gives to upcoming leaders, and of course, her inspiring journey. So let's get into this conversation right away. Welcome, Neeraja, to Beyond HerStory. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. It's my honor to be, on this wonderful platform, which has already had so many, awesome women. So looking forward to this conversation.
Same here, because you've been a mentor and you've moved from transition from tech to being
That's right, yeah.
So how did that transition happen?
So let me be very honest. It wasn't very intentional.
Okay.
So 25 years of technology. However, throughout my tech career also, I used to do a lot of work in the space of diversity and inclusion. I used to run many initiatives in the organization which were, aimed towards helping women in terms of growing in their careers. But it was very concentrated too within the organization, who knew me and how much I could impact. I think just a year before I actually made the move, my organization asked me to put out a recommendation to hire women on a career break.
Okay.
And for someone who's never taken a career break, it just didn't make sense.
Okay.
I just wanted to tell them, okay, you go hire men, you go hire women, go hire a woman on a career break.
Yeah.
But then a recommendation can't be that, right?
Yeah.
So I did a lot of research.
Okay.
I spoke to some of my friends who had taken a break, and I realized that there were platforms which were kind of started to help such women.
Correct, yeah.
And then I, of course, put out this recommendation. And because I did the research, I was registered on a couple of such platforms.
Okay.
So I got an invite to attend a conference for them.
Okay.
Now, there was no need for me to attend because I was not on a break. I was not intending to take a break. But something in me told me I must go. It was a Saturday in Bangalore. You can imagine, you have a packed week. And then your Saturday, you're again going through the traffic and sitting in a Monday conference, which may not necessarily be of use to you.
Correct.
Had a lot of fight with my husband on that day. He was saying, why do you want to spend a Saturday like this? But I went. And I think that is where the, kind of shift happened.
Yeah.
Because I heard these women. They were talking about how difficult it was for them to even get to an interview.
Yeah.
Of course, this I'm saying 2016. Things are much better today. But then, they said even to get to an interview was tough. Their resumes would probably never get selected. But at the interview, the kinds of questions that they were asked, it just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
They took a break for, their personal reasons to, maybe for childbirth, to care for someone, or maybe just to kind of take a pause. But it sounded as if they lost all their experiences. That's how the interviewers used to kind of ask them.
Yeah.
And this really kind of agitated me, and I felt I had to do something for these women. And that's how it started. I started looking out for opportunities. I found platforms like, Jobs for Her, where I started as an ambassador to spread word around that, hey, such platforms exist.
Yeah.
Then I became a mentor on that platform. I went to head their not-for-profit foundation.
Okay.
And what also happened was, in 2017, I personally had to take some time off because the entire support system, which helped me grow in my career, which was parents, in-laws, husband, kind of came to a crumbling halt because mother went through a surgery, father-in-law fell ill, husband fell very ill. So I was trying to figure out a role for myself which wouldn't have that kind of travel which I was doing. So this is pre-COVID, right? So nobody thought you could do things without travel. Yeah. So the 6 weeks of leave to help my mother, go through a surgery became 3 months because one after the other people were falling ill. And I was still trying to get a role for myself which wouldn't have travel, but that didn't come by.
Okay.
So, but in those 3 months, while I was caring for people at home, I used to step out every day for 2 hours.
Okay.
Either to volunteer somewhere or to meet a lot of people to figure out how they started out. Because, in those days, again, you didn't have so many platforms that exist today to help women or anybody to start up. So I thought let me collaborate with some people, because somewhere in the back of my mind I knew that if such a role doesn't come, I will quit.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to look for another corporate job because it would be the same.
Correct.
So that also helped me, because I knew there's enough to do.
Yeah.
Money aside, that will come, we can figure it out. There's enough to do.
Yeah.
So after 3 months, when my company called me back saying there are no such roles and we can't extend your leave any further, I quit.
Okay.
And then on it's been on this. That's how it happened.
So this transition took around a year, is it?
Not really. See, so whole of 2016 I started, kind of building myself up and helping women. And 2017 I quit in September. October I was kind of just still talking to people. November I went to consult at a startup. And January I was heading the jobs for a foundation. So I think prep was there. I definitely would say along with my corporate job, there was about a year's, prep that I was doing without knowing that I would get into it. It was just a way of helping that I wanted to, but it helped me eventually, make that move. Yeah, that's right.
So your signature program, Networking for Results, is more about action and how to network.
Right.
So what are some of the things that you can tell us as to how effective networking is, one, and how does it actually impact women?
Sure. Right. So how did that happen? It also was something that people started asking me for, because they saw me networking a lot.
Yeah.
So my transition also happened because I had large networks. So when I said I used to step out, even during those 3 months when I was caring for people, I was meeting people. And who were these people? I had either met them at some events or I had connected with them on LinkedIn. So I didn't know them from past, right? But they were good enough, they were kind enough to meet me and have those conversations. And that's how I built a very large network, and most of my opportunities have come from those networks. So people always call me as a networking queen. And they said, can you start telling us about how to do it?
Yeah.
What started as small conversations went on to workshops, to even 3-month-long programs.
Is it?
Yeah.
3 months?
Yes.
Okay.
That was also kind of a surprise for me when one of the organizations said, see, Neeraja, they'll come for even if it's a 4-hour session, they will sit, they will attend, they will listen, but they're not going to network. So 3 months, you have to ensure that they actually network.
Okay, that's a good thing.
Yeah. So these are a few things that I talk about when I speak about networking. The first and foremost is, especially for people who are in organizations, in working in the corporate space, you have to network within the company.
Yes.
Also. It's not only outside.
Correct.
So there are 3 different kinds of people that you should start building your connections with. One is a very selfish need, how to get things done very quickly in the organization. So find such people. It could be executive assistants, could be people who are influential and can get your things done. Right. So it's very selfish, but it's important.
Yeah.
So that's one layer. The second is more for your growth. So where you see that these are people who will speak about you, for you, they know you. So those are the kinds of people that you start building connections with. And the third is more strategic, which also means you start networking outside the organization. Yeah. You learn from people outside. You bring that learning into your organization, and people start looking at you as very differently. Oh, how did you get to know that?
Yeah.
And they will know that you're connected to such and such people outside. And that kind of enables your strategic growth, right? So these are 3 types of networking, of people that you need to network with. And how do you network? It's very simple. The first and foremost is leave your comfort zone. Okay?
Very important.
Yeah. So whether it is in a company or outside, you get invited to an event, you see somebody standing there at the coffee, pantry, say a hello, have some conversation with them. It's very, very easy. You need to leave your comfort zone and just kind of get talking. Now, the other problem for people is that networking is taken as, how do I ask for something? Because eventually we say that it helps you grow, which means that I need to get something from somebody.
Correct.
But that is eventually. The definition for networking is, how can you help somebody?
Yes.
And when you start looking at it from that aspect, it's not difficult. I can help you, you can help me. It comes very naturally to us, right? So start looking at how can I help the other person, which means you need to know what is the other person seeking for. Those are the conversations that you have. So you don't keep talking about yourself, but trying to find out more about the other person and seeing how I can help. Now, help can be as simple as you have this particular show running. Yeah, I can help you by introducing you to 5 guests. Yeah, it's as simple as that. So it doesn't take time. It's kind of part and parcel of your life. Yeah, correct. But if you do it very genuinely, then you will feel it like that. If you do it with the intention of, okay, I need to help, I need to help, then it becomes a chore, right? So some stories, because that will probably, this is very theoretical, right? And people say, okay, really, does it work? So a couple of stories here. One is leaving the comfort zone story. So when I was in Capgemini, and it's a large services organization, and we had a lot of client accounts. So you wouldn't know, people from one account to the other account. Each account was like its own company. So they decided, the Bangalore center head decided to make Bangalore the best center in Capgemini. So he decided to bring all the account leaders together and constituted a Bangalore leadership team. And said, okay, let's figure out how to make this the best center. So I got nominated from my account. Now I used to work within the client office, which meant that if I have to attend these meetings, I have to travel, and those in Bangalore will know, from Bellandur to Whitefield. Which is a half-day chore. I had to leave my work, go there, sit in those meetings. And the first meeting that I went to was very operational, because the rest of the folks were working within the Capgemini office there in Whitefield. So they had all the issues about washrooms and tissue papers and food to talk about. Bangalore Center has to be best. There are very operational elements also that you have to make good. And none of them actually affected me, because sitting in a client office, your food, your electricity and tissue paper doesn't help me. So I really got bugged. And the meeting stretched for 3 hours. And then they came to me last and said, do you have something to talk about? And all I could tell them was, see, I sit in the client office. It'll be good for some of your folks to come and visit us once in a while, because we can't come and, see our own office. And I went home by 8 o'clock that night, and I told my boss, I'm never going to attend these meetings. He said, it's okay if you don't attend the meeting, but I don't want you out of that committee. Because anything that happens in Bangalore, you should have a say in it. So you don't attend meetings if you can't, but you are part of that committee. So I didn't go for the next 2 or 3 meetings. And then when I went for the next one, because I was feeling very guilty, there was better structure to the meeting. And they invited somebody, they started inviting external people. So this was a person who was running the Toastmasters Club. Right? Toastmasters Club is a global club which helps people with their speaking skills, public speaking skills. And while I had heard of Toastmasters, I didn't know what it was, and this person told us all about it, and she was looking for us to nominate people into that club. A few months later, I finished up my work with this account, and I went back into the Capgemini office, and there was an invite to one of the Toastmasters meetings, and I went to that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gone, right? Because I didn't know what this was. But since I heard this person, I said, let me go and see what happens. And there was a very senior leader who had come to that meeting. After the whole thing was over, lunch was also served, so I went and sat with that person. And this is when you leave your comfort zone. One, you go and attending meetings, then at lunch you're going and sitting with someone that you don't know. And we started talking, and I said, I'm looking for my next role, because my previous one is over. And I was like telling him what I had done. And he said, we're trying to build a role like that in my team. Can you come and meet me? And in a few weeks, I had that role. So this is how it helps, right? Leaving the comfort zone.
Very true.
For example, this opportunity. We don't know each other from the past, but somebody has connected us. How do I know Sapna, right? Somebody introduced me to her. We are part of some, common networking forums and WhatsApp groups, and she follows my work, and she decided to introduce me. And here is an opportunity. So it might take time. It won't be instantaneous, but if you are always genuinely wanting to build those relationships and nurture those relationships, eventually it comes back. So that's what I try and tell through my programs. This was a shorter version.
Very interesting, because I'm able to relate to it, because I have worked in the corporate sector for around 20 plus years, and I was one of those who don't step out of the comfort zone, stand in a corner, just quietly have the coffee and all. But now, after starting Wonder Woman Wednesday, if I don't network, I know I'm not going to get the people that I want on this. So I have understood it through Wonder Woman Wednesday, but I think these are very important sessions. It's like you said, to build relationships, to build new connections, and it definitely helps in the long run.
Absolutely. And not only professionally, but personally. You never know when you need help and what kind of connections you have, who can possibly help you. So keep at it. My mantra is, you cannot dig the well when you're thirsty. Right? So you can't say, I'm good today, so when I need, you can't start then. You need to keep doing it.
Very true. And the second thing I was able to relate to was about how you said that, we need to ask people, like, what can I do for you? Should be your opening line, or, then it becomes, the connection becomes instantaneous, as what I feel and what I've seen from my experience.
So, which means that people always say, what do I speak to a stranger? I don't know what to speak. Well, you don't have to speak. You have to listen, because it's about getting to know that person. So you have to really ask open-ended questions to say, okay, what prompted you to do this? What are some of the challenges that you have? Can I help you in some ways? And you may say, I'm really looking for the best camera and I'm not able to find it. I say, no, I think I know this camera person or something like that. Or I'm looking for a better place to shoot. You will come up with certain things and I will be able to help you directly, or I could introduce you to someone else who can help you.
True.
So that's the way you build that relationship.
Yeah, very true. So Neeraja, storytelling is a powerful tool, right? And I think you have a program with respect to storytelling. So can you tell us more about it and what is the concept behind using storytelling?
Sure. So, as you have seen from the time we are talking, I'm narrating stories.
Yes.
Right? I don't just say, okay, you do X, Y, Z, but I try and add some stories which are nothing but experiences, my experiences, somebody's experiences, so substantiate and to prove that it really works.
Yeah.
So, what happened was when I started doing these sessions, it's my style to narrate a lot of stories, a lot of my personal examples. I didn't know that, this is like called storytelling. I just did it because I felt it would be more impactful when I tell people that I went through this and this is how I dealt with it. I started seeing a lot of feedback coming my way saying that what you do is so very impactful and actionable. And that's why your programs are different to many others. And on reflection, I realized that story makes a difference. So that's my style. And then people started asking how to become a better storyteller. So that's how the program on storytelling has come by. So I call it either What's Your Story, which is if you want to talk about yourselves at interviews, you want to introduce yourselves as part of networking, the elevator pitch that we talk about, then you narrate it in the form of a story. Or people have asked me to do sessions for, say, project managers, testing professionals, business owners, because they all need to eventually get to a point. And just by putting a deck with 10 points, this doesn't help. When you are able to craft a story and narrate a story, it is much more impactful. Now, we know stories are really, really impactful. As a child, we heard stories and we tell children stories instead of telling them morals. Because we know that is most impactful. But if we can change our communication style to have stories, I think a lot of time we say communication has not been effective. That changes. That problem goes away. So again, 2 stories. One of them could be that on 31st December 2018, I decided to end the year by doing some shopping. So I decided to go to GRP, the jewelry shop. I got off the car. The shop was on the other side. So I was crossing the road and I saw a 2-wheeler pass by. And for some reason, I thought the 2-wheeler seems to be turning back, and I was wondering whether the person is coming towards me or maybe the person took a wrong route and is going back. So I was crossing the road very slowly and I went to the other side and stood. The 2-wheeler came and stood next to me and the person removed the helmet. It was a lady. And she said, "Aren't you Neeraja Ganesh?" And I was surprised because I've never seen this person before. So I said, "Yes, I am Neeraja." And she said, "I thought as much when I saw you come out of the car. And there was no way I could have gone without coming back and thanking you for all the work that you do for women like us. And please keep doing it." And she put on the helmet and she went up. Now this is a story, right? If somebody were to ask me about what I do, I could just say this and say, so I help a lot of women through mentoring and coaching. Instead of this, if I say, Sneha, I do a lot of programs for women, I mentor a lot of women, I coach a lot of women, it's been really impactful. You may still be wondering, okay, fine, everybody else does. But when I narrate this story, you know it has made an impact because some stranger on the road came back to tell me that.
Very true.
So that's how stories are powerful and impactful. So in all my sessions, I say, if I want to talk about don't be guilty, if I want to talk about imposter syndrome, I usually narrate a story from my life and I say how I dealt with it, and it just makes a connection with the other person. So, okay, I'm also going through this. And I will go back and make a change. And after every program of mine, people have come back and said, "I've changed this." That is the instant action they are able to take. So one, make your style, a communication style in the form of stories. And 2, of course, I teach people why storytelling and how, because stories are always entertaining. That is for sure.
Very true.
But are they able to take some actions? That is how a storyteller has to be. You are not just an entertainer. You have to be an entertainer. but also narrate it in such a way that people take actions. So that's the most important part of the storytelling.
Just a question out of
Yes,
curiosity. Does it come naturally to you, or do you prepare for some stories when you go to a particular session?
So now it is very natural. But I think as a person, it probably was in me because when I started doing those sessions and narrated stories, it just came to me, right? It wasn't as if I thought this is the style I should adapt. It was my way. But always people need to keep a bag of stories. Today I don't need to because it's just stored here, thankfully. But when you start and you go for any workshops or any meetings, you should prepare. By saying, okay, fine, these are the kinds of questions that you can anticipate. These are the things I want to tell. So what are those 10 stories I must keep with me? 5 for sure I'll tell. The other 5 are kind of to be used if a question comes.
Good.
And hence you have to start writing those stories somewhere. Not full-fledged, but maybe you can put it down. Today something happened in your life. You may just want to jot it down in your diary to say, this is what happened. I can use this for 1, 2, 3, these kinds of conversations.
Very true.
So you build your story bag, and next time you need to use, you can refer that to say, okay, which story should I take out? And over a period of time, you just become a natural storyteller. This place is always full of stories.
I think that's a very, very important tip, because it's not just like you said in workshops and all. Even when we create YouTube videos, people say that storytelling has to be a part of your script. Because that's when people will relate to you. And which is why even in Wonder Woman Wednesday, that was the intention we started, that when people read stories of other women or hear other women speak about it, there is going to be some element that they're going to relate to and create a shift.
Absolutely.
So I think it's been wonderfully put, Neeraja. So Neeraja, since your time in the tech world and even now, you have been actively involved in women's career development, right? So as per you, what are the things that women face as barriers in their career and maybe even in their normal personal life as well?
Sure. I spoke about the 2 aspects. One is the organization level. The second is from the woman herself. Right? At the organization level, definitely there's a lot of bias. There's a lot of stereotyping that gets done. And I wouldn't really call it out as a bad thing, because many times it's unconscious.
Yes.
It is because of the way you've grown up, your environment, your experiences. For example, I was biased when they asked me to put out a recommendation to hire women on a career break, because I had never taken a career break. So I thought, what's the big deal? But when I heard those women who've taken a career break and the challenges that they had to restart, I realized something needs to be done. So it's okay. There are biases, there are stereotypes, and organizations need to focus on first building the awareness that you and I are biased, and then talk about how to kind of combat that bias. Okay. And the second issue that organizations have is that policies are not gender neutral. So there has to be a maternity break policy, because it's the woman who goes through pregnancy and delivers a child. The 3 months became 6 months. I know there's been huge debate about was it good or bad. Because now companies are thinking I need to give 6 months off. And recently we heard about the 2 years of mandatory child care policy. Now whether it's good or bad, one doesn't know. Right? But if you make it gender neutral, if you say it's parental leave, it's not maternity or paternity, even a man can take 3 months, 6 months off if he has had a child, then these biases will not come in. Because when you're hiring a man also, it's going through your mind that okay, he may also take a break. And then you're not going to look like that towards a woman. So I think these 3 things, looking at the gender biases, stereotypes, as well as looking at gender neutral policies are something that will really help the cause. From a woman's perspective, there are a lot of mindsets. We always want to be perfect. There will be men also who want to be perfect, but they're not going to be the 100% perfect. 80% is okay, basically. But for us, we want to be 120% there before we get going with
Very
something,
true.
right?
Very true.
We have a lot of self-doubt. We have this, everybody has an imposter syndrome. And imposter syndrome is something which is telling us continuously that we're not good enough. What if something went wrong? Actually, you just happen to get this role just by luck, but you don't deserve it. These are things that the imposter will keep telling everyone, not only a woman.
Correct.
But women are not able to kind of deal with it as effectively as men do. So all of these mindsets, guilt, forever we are guilty. Okay? All these mindsets are what hinder a woman from taking the next step. She says, okay, I'm not yet ready. Oh, let me prepare for this interview a little bit more before I go and attend that interview. While a man will say, tomorrow, I'm there.
Yes.
Okay?
Very true.
So this is why we need interventions, both at the organization level as well as when I do workshops for women to say, hey, it's okay. You have to get rid of the guilt. It's perfectly fine. Whom are you trying to answer? Eventually, it's your life. And only the people who matter to you matter. What the rest of the world says doesn't. Okay. For example, I always talk about Apurva Purohit. She now runs this startup called as Azol. She used to be, heading the Jagran Prakashan, those, the media houses. She's written 2 books, phenomenal books. Wherever I go, I speak about these 2 books. Lady, You're Not a Man. Lady, You're the Boss. Okay. She also talks about the guilt that she carried when her son had chickenpox. And she says she had a board meeting to go to. So she asked her mother to look after the son. And she said, she's giving an interview when the child was 11 years old. And she says, for all the 11 years, the scars from the chickenpox have healed, but the scars from the guilt have not healed. Today, her son is a co-founder. So eventually things will work out. But why are you so guilty? Like whether her mother was caring or she was caring for the child, it's the same. Because you really can't do anything for a child that's having chickenpox. The child is going to lie there. You're not going to go next to and do anything really actively. So let go of those guilt. So these are the things that I do in my women's workshops. I talk about the 4 or 5 critical things which women have in their mindset. And in my experience, it's only these 5 things. Okay. There's nothing more. Men also go through it, but they may not care about it, or they have learned how to cope with it, but women have not. So those are the 2 big things.
I think, like when we say about men and women, I think it's just that the ratio of women, or the percentage of women going through this is more than men. Maybe men also go through it.
That's right.
Like you rightly said, it's just that the percentage is a bit lesser compared to women. Like I think that guilt part of it. Also, I think every woman goes through it, and almost every day. When you leave home, you're guilty about,
exactly.
And when you are at home, you're thinking about your workplace and your career.
True. So, example, I told you that my mother-in-law just underwent the surgery and we may not be able to do this. She's still in the hospital. Now, I was thinking whether I should do this or not. But she's in the hospital and recovering, and my husband and my sister-in-law are also there. So, we are taking turns to do the hospital duty. Now, sitting in the hospital, you really can't do much. You're just sitting. Just to be there as an attender. The hospital is taking care and she's recovering. So, I thought, I can push this to next week. Next week she will come home. Maybe my work for her, at home is going to be more than, the work that I can do in the hospital. So, anyways, today is my night duty with her. Okay, so I said, let me then just come and do this, right? Instead of postponing it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and one doesn't know what happens. So, that's how we kind of handle it. It's not as if I'm a bad daughter-in-law, that my mother-in-law is in the hospital and I'm doing this today. She's being cared for. Anyways, I would have sat at home only and would have run the kitchen probably. I've told my cook what has to be done, and I've come here and I'll go back and do my duties, right? So don't feel guilty about this. As long as the outcome has been met, don't be guilty. Who does it is immaterial. The outcome has to be there.
I think this mindset is very, very important, Neeraja, for all women to, start thinking like this. And I hope, women who listen to it actually start thinking about this. So Neeraja, I think you're also a mentor to many young people. So what are the attributes that the young people have to have for having, a professional growth and maybe grow personally as well?
So the concept is known, but I speak about it a lot. People have to build themselves into the shape of a T, right? So I always tell people that you should become a T-shaped individual. What does that mean? The vertical of the T is your subject matter expertise. So if I was technology, I started as a programmer, then how deep are my programming skills? And if you are, say an electrical engineer or whatever, what is the depth of your subject? That all of us are always improving on. There's no doubt about it, right? So the vertical keeps growing. What about the horizontal? And that's also as important. And the horizontal is the breadth of skills that you bring. So as a programmer or as a whatever role you are in, are you a problem solver? Are you creative? Are you innovative? Are you a team player? Are you able to, resolve conflicts and innumerable, competencies, strengths, whatever you may call it? Which is more important than your, depth?
Yes, agreed.
If you are not able to work with a team, However good you are, I don't think you have a place in the team. Yes, correct. So I always tell people you need to build yourselves as a team. So you will automatically, in organizations are investing on your, vertical, but you have to build the breadth. Now, how do you build the breadth? Yes, you can attend courses, but a lot more of that gets built when you actually work on different kinds of projects. As a student, you pick up different kinds of internships. As a student in your college, can be part of as many clubs that are there. So even a painting club or a drama club, the skills that you pick up there is going to be very useful even in a tech role.
Yes.
And to narrate a story, my own daughter, whose name is Neha, okay, she graduated last year. Now she works in an organization as a data analyst. So she is a COVID batch. Okay. So 12th standard exam, one paper was left when the lockdown happened. And then she joined Christ University. The reason for joining Christ, she wanted to join Christ from the time she was in 8th standard because of the campus.
Okay.
But the 2 years were online. Okay. Now, there was this organization called as Aspire for her, started by Madhura Das Gupta Sinha, which was started in 2020 around the same time with the lockdown, etc. The platform was started to help girls in the age group of 18 to 25 build a mindset to have intentional careers. So what we see is, if you don't build those mindsets early on, that's when the career breaks happen. Because the minute you have a challenge, you think, okay, I have to take a break. I have to slow down, I have to pause, etc. You don't think of different ways to deal with it, right? So that's a platform she started. And since she was looking at this age group, she wanted to build a team with such, young people. Okay. And Sneha, she joined them for a 1-month internship and she was very good at her role. So they made her a part of the core team. Now look at the things she did. She wants to be a data analyst, but she started off as a social media strategist. Then she went on to manage alliances for Aspire for her. Then she, of course, did technology roles, project management, etc. But the kind of exposure she got along with her studies by doing all of these roles is what finally enabled her to get into what she is doing today.
Yes.
She did math, statistics, computer science, which is definitely needed for a data analysis role. But in this competitive market, I think what has kind of pushed her into the organization than many others is the breadth of the team. So she comes across as a 22-year-old today, but even when she was 19, in terms of her communication, in terms of her creativity, in terms of her problem solving, in terms of team management and things like that. And hence it is very, very important for people to look at themselves as a team. And those are not courses. Those are things that you do. So don't think, oh, if this particular internship doesn't align to my future, growth, it's okay. It's going to aid you, with additional skills which will take you towards that. And even if you are a 30-year-old, can you start looking at places to volunteer outside your organization? Picking up some stretch assignments in your organization, which is very, very different. Like though I was a technology person, I did a lot of work in the diversity and inclusion space. And hence today I've been able to move into this space, but it has also equipped me with a lot of skills which otherwise, just running a technology organization will not. And I've become a better leader because of that, right? People choose me instead of others. So, yes, today the world is such that we don't know what tomorrow is going to be. It's changing, evolving. So be very open in terms of be flexible to the changes. You can't be, this is all I will do. Or this is the stuff that I have studied and that's why my role has to be this. Flexibility is a must. People start looking for people who are open, agile, curious, willing to learn. Very softer skills, you can't really learn those from a course. But you become that when you start doing many, many new things and different things, but build yourselves to become a T-shaped.
Wow, that was amazing. Because even I didn't know, to be very frank, I didn't know about the tea concept at all. And it actually makes sense as you start talking about it, that because if you see, the education system is such that we are always in that, but like you rightly said, we are always in that, and we've been told to do that. Very few people are open to the horizontal part of it, where you need to improve your soft skills. And like you said, the other thing that I really liked is about the internships and how you can be involved and learn. Rather than the theoretical part of it.
That's right. That's why the story is also, right? The theory doesn't help in any way. Actually, it doesn't help much. You will forget it also. How many are you going to remember? How many pages of your book are you going to remember? But you go and work, you listen to those stories, at least two things will stay on with you.
Yeah.
And that's what makes a difference.
So Neeraja, amazing stories and amazing inputs and tips. Actually, I think everyone should watch this because there are so many subtle things that you have mentioned, which maybe we know but we overlook. But the way you put it on how important it is, it's really good. So now moving on to your accolades and awards. I think you have received many awards. You've been a finalist for the Women Achievers Award 2023.
Right.
And you've also got multiple awards. So how has that been, and what do you think about these awards and recognition, and how does it help a person?
Sure. So the last one was the Women Tech Network Speaker of the Year Award. I was one of the top 10 finalists out of some 50 people, I think.
Wow.
Let me be very honest, I've never gone after these awards. Okay. And again, I'll give you a backstory. So when we are in organizations, right, we get all these goals for us and the KPIs, and then we work towards them, and then the appraisal happens, and then you get a rating. Okay. We all want the best of the ratings for us. So there was this time when I was actually doing my own role, and my boss was in Melbourne for another very critical project. So I used to represent him locally in Bangalore, which means I was kind of doing his role also.
Yeah.
I used to sit in his meetings and really liaise with senior people and all of that, and I thought I'd done an exceptional job at it. So my role plus a lot of his role, and I thought I should get a better rating, like not 3, which is like on target, right? I should get above target or something like that. But when the appraisal happened, he gave me a rating of 3. And I'm a person who believes that you can't fight at the appraisal table. If you have not been able to align with your manager in terms of your performance the entire year, then there was something wrong there. You can't be sitting on that day and fighting. Okay. So I didn't fight it out. I said, okay, if you think this is 3, it's 3. But I definitely want something better than this for next year. So I want you to add some stretch KPIs for me, which is very visible. So that next year, we don't even have to talk about it. I would have achieved those, so it's about target. So he said, no, I'm not going to add anything stretch. Let me just tweak in these own, whatever you already have, so that you really have to stretch to get to it. So he was saying, for example, you will always have a customer satisfaction score. Okay. So if the customer satisfaction score of 8 is 3, then he said, I'll make it 9 means 3 for you. So you have to really go, all out to get a better staff satisfaction score, your delivery metrics, everything. I'm just going to up it that way. Okay. And I said, it really doesn't make a difference. Because whether you give me, if you say that the customer satisfaction score of 8 is 3 or 2 is 3 or 10 is 3, I will do what I have to do to keep my customer happy. Correct. The KPIs don't determine how I work, how much I work, and how well I work. Yeah. My role demands it, and I will go all out. Yeah. Okay. Similarly, for the accolades, I don't work because I don't do something because it will get me recognition. Yeah. I just do what I believe needs to be done, and if it gets recognized, great. Yeah. So, like on LinkedIn, you may have seen there are a lot of badges. There's a LinkedIn top voice, and today there are a lot of LinkedIn top voices in, say, public speaking, mindfulness, all of that which has come by. I do a lot of writing on LinkedIn, but I don't target to be a top voice. People are still, influenced by what I write. People start calling me a social media influencer. I say, no, I'm not a social media influencer. I don't do it to influence. I do it because I believe I want to share. Yeah. So the difference is that I don't do things for those awards. I do what I do. And if people think it's worthy of an award, great. Now, has that helped me? Definitely it helps the brand. I won't deny it, because when you introduce me as someone, say, who's been on TEDx, who's got this award, a global award, people will probably listen to this episode maybe than the other one. Yeah. Let's listen to someone who's been on TEDx. Correct. However, it has not got me more work, because people think that, okay, if you're an awardee, then maybe you get more projects. That has not happened. I'll be very honest about it. Okay, they use it for their own branding. They use it for the introductions, but because I'm a TEDx speaker, because I've got these awards, I'm not suddenly started getting more work. So I'll be very honest about it. That's why the message there is, do what you need to do, what you believe in, go all out and achieve it. Whether you get recognized or not, you know you are satisfied. Yeah. Okay. If you're going after the awards, there will be something which will not. There'll be a force and a pressure to become that particular awardee, and hence your work may get diluted. Yeah. You'll be under stress and you won't perform to the very best. There are many other platforms that I've spoken at. From where I've got more work. Okay. That is why I really, delink the two. Your awards are just recognition. it's good. It's a validation that you're doing the right things and you need to do more for it. But I don't go after the awards, and that necessarily hasn't gotten me more work. So that's it.
Yeah, but it's still amazing, being globally recognized and having so many awards also. Like
It helps. It kind of, it motivates you to do more because you realize that people are looking at it. Like if this woman could find me on a road and tell me that you made a difference to my life and many women's life, I'm definitely motivated. That's an award for me. I would give that, more credibility than the awards on stage, and I will do more because there is impact of the work that I do.
And I think like what you mentioned, more than being an influencer, I think if you make an impact, that is the best part of it.
That's right, yeah.
So I think it's been an amazing conversation, Neeraja. I mean, I have learned a lot, though I'm not in the corporate world. I'm sure I'll share this with all people who are still, as a part of corporate, and I think they need to know that whatever things you've mentioned specifically about building skill sets and the mindset that we women have, all these things, I think if more women are aware of it, I think then it's a different world for us.
Exactly, that's right.
Yeah.
And at the end of every such discussion that I do, I say that you would have heard some 20 things from us today. Entertaining for sure. What is the action that you're going to do?
Yes.
Otherwise, this 1 hour, whatever amount of time you took to listen to this is waste.
Yeah.
So please take at least one action. You don't have to action everything. At least take one action and see how it works for you, because only then this is meaningful.
Yes,
right?
Very true. Very rightly said. And I'm sure people would want to get in touch with you. Sure. So can we leave your LinkedIn link on the description so people can get?
Yes, they can. I would love that.
Thank you. Thank you so
much.
My pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.